Okay, let's begin. I am Lanice Antoine Shelley, and I'll be your host through constructive, healing-based conversations designed to illuminate the adoptee, parents, and the adoption curious. We center the topics around community, mentorship, leadership, and healing, so you get a multi-dimensional view that is ultimately empowering. These are the voices who could not speak when they were young. Hey y'all, if you've seen me on Instagram, I'm in my summer glow phase and I am unapologetic about it. My hair is luscious. Fun fact, I didn't start properly treating and doing my own hair until I was a grown adult because like many Black adoptees, no one showed me how to do my own hair. And because I love you all so much, I'm going to share with you my hair secret. I'm always on the lookout for things you'd love and things that will enhance your well-being inside and out. We Unique Cosmetics sent me their Moisture Lock pomade and scalp and hair therapy oil from their Metamorphosis line, and it's so decadent, light, and nourishing, fam. This has become a hair routine staple. It has a soft lemongrass scent that people comment on when I walk by or when they're doing my hair because now I have boho locks. They also sent me a 15% discount link for you to try their products and hair tutorial service. And Unique Cosmetics is Black owned and operated by a mother and daughter duo dedicated to helping the adoptee community. Check out the link in the show notes. And this is for all ages, fam. So tell your friends. So come on, embark on a hair-loving journey with We Unique World. From interactive workshops to premium products, they're all about empowering you to embrace your unique hair journey. Because remember, all hair is good hair, especially when it's healthy. Hey fam. Whew. My whole body is vibrating with the collective anger and anxiety from yesterday's Supreme Court ruling. How is your heart? I know I usually ask you first, but fam, it was hard for me to get up and do this today. What keeps me going is the fact that we need each other more than ever. And I cannot leave you adrift. So here I am, breathing with you, searching for answers with you. Angela Rye, a political commentator I follow on Instagram, had some encouraging words, as well as Michelle Obama, so head over to her page. Angela broke down the law in a way that I could understand. She spoke to the next steps that we need to take, that the next steps that will happen, because I have no idea, because so much of this is foreign to me. I left that link in the show notes. We are here to give each other hope and support in all ways, in all things. I know that this has hit the adoption community the hardest because people start to look to adoption to fix social issues. I'm not going to get on my rant right now today on this particular podcast, but trust and believe on a solo episode, or I'll bring someone back on to talk about these issues on another date. But I've included Amanda Wooston on episode 10. She has some incredible content, as well as Melissa Guida Richards, who's on episode 6. They are adoptees with powerful perspectives that you can follow and stay informed. And I think that that's the greatest thing we can do right now, is just stay informed. And speaking of powerful perspectives, I'm going to use this as a segue. Our guest today embodies everything we are striving for on this podcast: tenacity, grace, resilience, courage in the face of excruciating challenges. Julie Ryan McGue is the co-author of Twice a Daughter. She wrote this book with her twin sister. They were both adopted. Julie and I delve into the challenges of asking adopted parents for adoption information and alerting them to your search. We discuss the complicated emotions of everyone in the adoption constellation. That includes birth parents, adoptive parents, adoptees, and those surrounding them. And how her search opened up magical moments of clarity that would change people's perspectives. We had technical difficulties in the beginning as we were recording this podcast, but we persevered, as we should. The reward was an enlightening conversation. Let this conversation bring you light, my dear friends, my dear fam. I know it did for me. Here it is. Okay, great. There we go. Now we're at it. So weird. That has never happened before. So odd. Thank you for your patience.
And you too. You too. And I have to tell you that my background is virtual. I am not at the beach. I'm at very chilly, rainy Michigan City, Indiana.
Oh, man, I was going to be so envious of you. Then never mind.
No, I love looking at myself at the beach, but I'm not.
I know. Someday you'll be able to manifest it, right?
Exactly.
All righty. So we have so much to talk about, and I'm very excited to have you on this podcast and find out about your work and what you're doing and your book, Twice a Daughter, and what inspired all of that. So let's start off with, talk to me about your book.
Okay. In 2008, I had a breast biopsy. I was 48. I knew that I was adopted. I have an identical twin sister. We were adopted and raised together. And the breast biopsy highlighted for both of us that we needed some medical history. And because we're from a closed adoption, we had no information about our birth circumstances, our birth parents, why we were adopted. And we didn't really know where to start. So we asked our adoptive parents for our adoption papers. And that was a very tense conversation because while they had always said they'd help us, it was really clear that my mom was not happy about it. And even though, we needed it for medical reasons, she still was very unhappy. And that caused a rift between she and I as it heated up. She didn't ask any questions about the search. She didn't want to talk about it. It took a while for us to figure out the right search path to go on. We tried a lot of different things, search agency. I ended up hiring a confidential intermediary, which I talk about a lot in the book. And we had a lot of difficulty trying to make contact with our birth relatives. So in the course of all of this, I went from a child that felt pretty safe and secure, felt like I knew who I was, and then it just all was up for grabs. One of my birth parents chose to reject contact with my sister and I, and the health history that we really wanted to get was becoming harder and harder. I was having more female health issues. All of this I talk about in the book. And it became very clear that this was a painful process for everybody. It was painful for my sister and I to deal with our adoptive mom, but also it was painful for the people we were trying to find. And the book is about that journey. It's about search and discovery. It's about family. It's about figuring out where you belong and learning to accept disappointment and figure out how to get through that, how to accept and forgive. And ultimately, the book has a very happy ending because there's a few God moments in the book where some things fall together into place. Some events that are like right out of a movie set because of the connections that we make. And in the end, mostly good things happen, but it was 5 years of a lot of hard work. What makes my book a little different than other adoption search memoirs is that I have a twin sister doing it with me. And our relationship never wavered through the whole thing. And she was very supportive. And I don't think I could have done it without her. So yeah, it was a very difficult process. Learning to write the book was a hard process. And it's something that I never expected I would be doing.
Had you written a book before? Was this your very first one?
Yeah,
okay.
My first book. But I have been writing and blogging about adoption and family for 3 years now. So I've been pretty active in that realm. And the book is not my first book. I've got a second one that I'm working on right now, which is another memoir, and it deals with what happens before this book.
Oh, okay. A prequel.
Yeah, a prequel. A coming of age story.
Okay. And so I'm running into a lot of adoptees who've either written a book or want to write a book. So what were your emotional steps to prepare you to share this particular story?
The big one was I needed to put what we call emotional distance between the actual events of the story. The first draft that I wrote of the book was angry. And when I went through it, it really was unpublishable. It was a lot of venting, more like a long journal entry. And I realized that to make it readable, I needed to learn to write the narrative more like fiction. So I got into writing classes and developed character, dialogue, scene. And so the book, it went through a big changeover. And as I learned to write, I put enough distance between the emotional events, and I was able to write about them probably from a better perspective. And the book ended up being a lot better because there was time in between the events that happened and writing the story. So that was the emotional journey. The other thing that happened was I became part of a post-adoption support group. And just in being in that sacred space with other people that were going through this, adoptees, but also birth parents and other adoptive parents, being part of that conversation really helped me get to the point where I could show all sides of what I went through and show them in a compassionate way. So the book wasn't angry. It was very positive.
And that's huge, right? Because it becomes an opening for numerous people to relate to, because only you can relate to the frustrating, the negative sides of an event. But if you open it up to be more just multidimensional in its perspective, then it broadens the impact. I know when I was writing my play about adoption, some people asked me about whether I was hesitant to reveal certain things within the play. Did you have moments of reservation or hesitancy where you were just like, I don't know if I should reveal this part of the story?
Oh, absolutely, Denise. I wrote everything as if nobody was going to read it. That was the first pass through. And then when I realized I was going to publish this book, I took out the things that I thought people would, the people in the book would object to. There was a couple scenes that I left in, not because I wanted to embarrass anybody, but because they served the story. And so many times people looking at adoption from the outside, because they haven't been touched by it themselves, they have their own misperceptions. And I felt that leaving those difficult scenes in there was a learning point. And there's healing on the other end of those. So by leaving them in, there was more of an arc to the story.
Yes. Yes, it's very interesting of like navigating the arc to a story that actually occurred you're just right off the bat when you're retelling your story, it's a bit flat and one note. But then when you actually have to flush it out, when you have to piece it together so that people can actually follow it, it creates another challenge.
It does.
How was it for your sister? Did she write it with you in tandem, or what was the process with that?
What a great question. So, because I was the searcher in the process from the beginning, I was more emotionally invested in the story. Every disappointment I took harder than she did. She celebrated with me when things went well. When you're a twin, you're in a kind of a passenger driver situation. Sometimes she would lead and I would take the passenger seat, and then vice versa. With the adoption search, I was the one leading. And as she had a full-time job. She wasn't able to help with the actual legwork. When I sat down to write the book, I asked her, I'm going to write about this. And she said, of course, do what you need to do. So I wrote the book and I gave it to her before it had been published, and she wasn't reading it. And I said, why are you not reading this? She said, I know how the story ends. It's fine. Whatever you chose to write is what you want to write, and I'm fine with it. So that's where we ended up. She's read the book. She loves it, and she's completely comfortable with everything I said. She never asked me to change anything.
That's so generous of her.
Wow. She trusts me, I guess.
Yeah.
I did give chapters that other people appear in to them to look over to see if they were uncomfortable about anything. Some of the people I asked, while they didn't tell me to change things, they suggested maybe there was another way to word certain situations. And several people asked me to change their names, which I was fine with.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that when I was writing my play. I changed everyone's name. And it was very sobering when my mom watched the play, because there was a certain event that occurred that was devastating to me. But in the moment, she felt that it was right. And so she finally saw my perspective and why it was so harmful in the moment that she had done that. Did you have any revelatory moments like that?
Oh my gosh, I just identify with everything you just said. So I was really worried when the book was coming out. I told my adoptive mom that I'd written the book and gave her the advanced reader copy. And I had left these difficult scenes in the book, not to embarrass her, but because we get to the other side of it. And when she finished the book, she said to me, you are really a beautiful writer, and I think you said what you needed to say. Yeah. So she didn't even object to those scenes or how I portrayed her. I think she realized we got to the other side. All is good. If this is what you need to say, I had her blessing.
That's such a cleansing moment.
It was. Yeah.
Did it mend some things for you?
It did. Yeah, it did. My birth mother also got a copy of the advanced book. And I said, did you get the book? And she said, yes, I did. And that's all she wanted to talk about. So it's still the whole topic of placing my sister and I for adoption with my birth mother. I think all of that is still very painful and traumatic for her. Mm-hmm. So the idea of me writing about it, and even though her name has changed, I think that's difficult, but we're still in relationship with one another. So it wasn't anything that was like a line drawn in the sand. Mm-hmm. You can't write this, or I don't want to know you anymore if you write this book. There wasn't anything like that. It just isn't a conversation that she's comfortable having.
And once the book was finished, what were the takeaways you would like for adoptees specifically? And what are those morals that you think can help adoptees in their journey to meet their biological families, to confront their adoptive families about these, mm-hmm. about their history?
One of the first goals was this is kind of like a how-to or what not to do. The mistakes that you get into when you don't know what you're doing. It's also an inspiration in the sense that you have to try everything. The first thing that you use, maybe it's a search angel, maybe it's your adoption agency, maybe it's an intermediary. Those first 2 or 3 things may not work. Keep trying. Find the next thing. Maybe it's genetic genealogy, it's Ancestry and 23andMe that's going to work. Try everything. What worked for another adoptee is not going to work for you. And there's going to be downbeats to the whole process. You've got to expect those. And if you have realistic expectations, you're going to be able to pick yourself up and move up the ladder to the next hard thing that you have to tackle. So that's my takeaway for adoptees. But also, the book is for everybody else. It's for birth parents to understand what an adoptee thinks about as far as their identity and what they think about being adopted. It's for adoptive parents to realize, oh my gosh, this isn't just my daughter rejecting me as a parent. This is about her wanting to know who she is. It's about a conversation about adoption is complicated. It's complicated for everybody, and we need to understand everybody's perspective. And the book is for the people outside of the adoption experience. There's so many misperceptions. I was characterized by a friend as being ungrateful to my adoptive parents for embarking on this, even though I needed my medical history. So the book is for them too, so that they can understand inside this very complicated equation. We're all struggling to figure it out. If you're not in the equation, listen. Don't judge. Just listen. Observe. Take it in. You're going to have your own viewpoint on the other side. But if you're not involved in the equation, don't jump in there with your misperceptions because they're very hurtful.
Is that what you said to your friend in response?
I was so angry. I had to sit on my hands.
Oh my goodness. I got angry just listening to that.
Yeah. I mean, but there is a lot of that, right? You're being ungrateful. And at one point, I felt like my mom wanted me to choose between her and my birth mother. And I kept saying to her, I have a big heart. I have enough love in my heart to love all of the people that are my family. And I think that persuaded her. It didn't need to be an either or. Why couldn't it be both? You know, why can't it be both? People that go through divorce, they somehow figure out to have blended families. Why can't the blended family concept apply to adoption and birth families? Why can't it be that situation? And that's what I hope the book does, is improve that conversation about the adoption experience. It doesn't have to be an either or.
Hey, I want to share with you something that has changed my life. It's more like someone, my therapist. Why is she so important? Well, because I want to win in this life. I want to break through the carousel of stories I've compiled that hold me back, that keep me from expanding into my full potentiality. Stories of unworthiness, not enoughness, and even stories of questioning why I am here. I also want to stop dumping my unsorted feelings on the people around me and reacting with the same behavioral patterns that keep me stuck. Conversations with my therapist have made me more confident, clearer in my intention, and more centered in my spirit. That is why I am elated that we are sponsored by BetterHelp, where you can, from wherever you happen to be right now, match with a therapist tailored to your exact needs. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. Someone who you can text at any time and schedule online for either a chat, Zoom, or phone call. And if it turns out that your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. Visit the link in the show notes, betterhelp.com, when they were young, to get 10% off the first month. You need to click the link in the show notes in order to get the 10% discount. I want to see you win, beloved. Let's do it together. Visit the link, betterhelp.com, when they were young. And that's so important too, because it isn't binary. I love that you use the example of the blended family because that essentially is what it is. There are a variety of variables that create a blended family. And I think we have been poisoned by the adoptee narrative, the Oliver Twists of the world, and this idea of indebtedness and gratefulness for something that we had no hand in. It is so harmful when people speak that way, when people even think that way. I don't know if you're familiar with Astrid Castro of Adoption Mosaic, but she talks about adoption not just as a triad, but as a constellation. And as you said, there are so many variables in this one situation. And it's more than the adoptive parent, the agency, and the child. You know, there are so many other moving parts in this equation. And I love that you use that word equation because I feel that that's truly apropos as well. And we have to mind ourselves as we navigate these moving parts. And we have to reclaim our own narrative. And that's what this platform is about, is giving adoptees an opportunity to tell their stories in the way they need to tell it. And I know my mom, even though it was uncomfortable for her to reckon with my perception of what happened, but it was true, just as true as her perception.
Right.
And you have to acknowledge that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think society did a lot of harm to the women back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s with the amount of shame that they put on an unwed mother. And unfortunately, that shame and guilt is something that they took in and embodied, and it becomes bigger than their relationship to the child that they gave up. I was just speaking with a new friend of mine who's an adoptee, and her birth mother's in her 90s, and she will not agree to meet with her. And it doesn't have anything to do with my friend. It has to do with how she views her own self for having committed this sin. And so society did a big disservice to birth mothers back in the last half of the century. But on the other end, one of the secrets I reveal in the book is that I find some siblings, new siblings.
Yay! That's so exciting.
It is. And talk about a different age group and the acceptance and the welcoming and the wanting to know. And it's not about what do you want? It's like, oh, so cool. I have another sister. I have two sisters, and I want to get to know you. And there's no boundaries. I mean, they just leaped in with both feet, unlike the birth mother who had all these issues that she grew up believing about herself. So I think that as far as adoption is where it's going, I think it's in a better place than it was with closed adoption. And I only hope that it gets better from there.
You know, I hear it's very common that the siblings are way more open and available to you, the adoptee, than the adoptive parents, because there's so much history there that they have to weed through. That's so fascinating, because I actually bonded more with my siblings than with my biological mother. when I was reunified with them. And I just hear that time and time again. And that's so awesome. And I'm very excited that that happened for you.
Yeah, that's great.
So where can people learn more about your work?
Well, they can go to my website, and I publish a weekly blog. Sometimes it's about adoption. Sometimes it's about family or identity. I have articles that are on several websites. Lifetime Adoption publishes a couple of my pieces now and then. So my website has all that information on it. And then the book comes out May 11th, which is
oh my goodness,
right after Mother's Day and right after birth Mother's Day.
Oh, congratulations. That's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Here's a copy of it. I just got these on Friday.
Okay. Yay. That is so exciting.
So they're Amazon and bookshop.org, and the indie bookstores all carry it, which is great. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I will continue to promote your book and your work. I'm very excited. And even though I don't know you, I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of the work you do too. What an amazing career you have on stage. And how's it been with the shutdown?
Well, it's challenging, we are trying to go live, as in go back on stage in the fall, winter, but we don't know if that will actually come to fruition because the idea of mandating vaccinations and how controversial that is, because not everyone has access to facilities and things like that. So we have to figure out if we can go live, and if not, what are the alternatives, and be creative with those alternatives. But we're pushing through. We're pushing through. The question that I ask all my guests is, where in your life do you think you can apply courage?
Well, I felt like I applied courage when I had the breast biopsy and had to figure out how to find my birth parents and my sisters and brother. So that was a very courage moment. But writing the book is a courage moment, because getting the word out and having the right narrative around it. I want people to understand that it's not an angry adoptee story, that it's more of a teaching tool. And I think I'm 62 years old. And so what I would say to people is, it took a medical event for me to find a late in life career. And I love writing, and I love writing articles, and I'm enjoying writing the book. But I think it's never too late to figure out your story. And it's never too late to become maybe who you always wanted to be, but you had put it like delayed. So I would urge your listeners to find the courage to take whatever step it is they think they need to take, and just do it. Just get out there and do it.
Yes, I love that. Ending on such an inspiring note. And that's what this podcast is all about. Thank you so much, Julie, for your time and for, we figured it out, the technical things. Good thing I have all these devices, right? It's first world problems over here.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time. And I'm excited to read your book myself. And
maybe we'll even be able to talk about it in person in Chicago sometime.
I would love that. Let me know next time you come through. We'll have tea.
That would be great.
Another beautiful episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to my guest today. If you liked this episode, the best way to support me and this work is to write an iTunes review, a 5-star review. This helps us reach the top of searches and helps more people to find us. And if you personally want to connect, please reach out on Instagram or Facebook. And I have some great resource material on my website at laniceantoineshelley.com. So go on over there too. Until next we meet, go gently and have courage, my love.